want to talk a little about if statements. Ifs are kind of one of the core pieces of programming because we need this idea of being able to compare two things and decide what to do. And there are several different ways to do that. Part of an if statement is all about a thing called Boolean logic. And Boolean logic is something we're all used to. It's the idea of one thing is equal to another. Or maybe one thing is greater than another, or less than another. We've all seen those. You've also seen where we've got a case of greater than or equal to, less than or equal to. That's what logic is about. So what we're going to do is we're going to combine that idea of Boolean logic with the idea of if something is true, then I want you to go do something. And if it's not true, or else, then I want you to do something else. Now, to make life even more complicated in programming, they've added one more step to that. And they've added the idea of the else if. This means we can stack one if within another if. So we can say, if this is true, do this. Else, if this is true, do this. Else, do something else. And we can stack as many else ifs in a row as we want to and make it way complicated. And that's what this logic is all about. So now, if we want to try that, first we've got to go clean up our other program. So I'm going to hit delete in my onShake and delete in my animation. And I'm going to go in to the logic and I'm going to find if true then. And notice that I'm going to get this same shape we've been using before. And I've got this little thing that says true, and I'm going to drag that in. I don't know how to make sure that true means anything. So what we want to do is we want to find a shape that's this little hexagonal shape here. And where we can find that, oh, by the way, this is all color-coded too. So notice that there's this pretty pink color here that says if button A is pressed. Well, in that case, I can go into the section that's the pretty pink color, and I can find the button A is pressed down here in the hexagon. So I'm going to take button A is pressed, and instead of dragging it into this shape where it won't go, I'm going to drag it into the true button. And in the true button now, it says if button A is pressed, then. And what we want the then to be is show our animation. So I'm going to go back to light, and I'm going to grab show animation, and I'm going to drag it in. Now, let's make this be the pretty purple comet, and let's show the comet animation if button A is pressed. Pretty simple, right? I've dragged my animation into the loop. So let's give that a try. I'm going to download the program. I'm going to push the button to clear whatever else was there. And I'm going to drag this latest one into my new drive. And poof, it did nothing. You know why it did nothing? Because the forever loop doesn't tell you to do anything yet. What I have to do instead is I actually have to push button A. And when I push button A, then it runs that animation. We can do that same thing here with anything we want it to. Can you make it do a sound when button A is pressed? You can do that either with on button A click in its own window, or you could do that with that same if statement and dragging a sound into that if statement window. If you want to give that a try, give it a try, and then we'll come back and do that together. Did you do it? I hope you succeeded. All right, I'm going to get rid of show animation, and I'm going to go to music, and I'm going to say play a sound, and the sound I'm going to make it play is the magic wand. So let's download that. Let's go to Finder. And downloads and push my button. Come on, downloads. And we'll go drag that in. And now I got it to play a sound. And that's all it takes. So now we want to expand that a little bit, and let's add an else to our statement. So we're going to again go into that play sound, and we're going to push the little button down here that says plus. And I'm going to change this play sound back to an animation so it's a little easier to see on the screen for you. And I'm going to say, if button 8 is pressed, do that animation. And otherwise, I want you to make the lights red. So let's now download that, and I've added an else to my statement. So download, drag it in here, push the button, go drag that over to my window. And notice how it's now switching to my animation when I press the button. But it's not staying for very long, so I'll have to change my animation to play for longer when button A is pressed. So I can change that to 1 second and do the same thing. Switch it here, the download finish, go drag it in. My lights are red. And now my animation is staying for longer. And switching back. And that's how you use an else. But what makes these really cool is you can do all kinds of other things. So I can add an else if to this, and I can say, if button A is pressed, I want you to do one animation. But if I click plus here, it adds this else if statement. And I can go into the else if section in my input, and I can drag this same shape over, and I can change my if button A is pressed to if button B is pressed. And I'm feeling very sound-like today, so maybe we'll say play the sound. Siren. So we'll download that, put that on my device. And when button A is pressed, I still get my animation. But when button B is pressed, I get a siren. Lights and siren. And I can actually make it so it does them both if I wanted to. It's all a matter of programming. At this point, you really do want to stop the video and play a little bit with the different choices you have in putting together animations, and see what you can do with sounds and options of if this thing happens. You'll notice in my input fields here, I've got all kinds of things that match that shape. I have a switch one. I have if the buttons are pressed. I have if the pins are pressed, and the pins are these little ones around the outside. I have all kinds of choices for what my inputs might be. So spend a few minutes and play with it, and then come back and watch the next video with me.